Well, hello there, and welcome to an Ignite Press book launch livecast. Today, I have a special guest who is bringing an entirely different way of looking at leadership and business. And I'm excited to bring her on. Now, before I do, I want to share with you that here at Ignite Press, we specialize in helping people take their messages to the world through books. The most timeless medium available to us. And if you have interest in getting a book out, you have a message that you'd like to share, go ahead and reach out to us. You can go to our website at ignitepress.us. That's ignitepress.us. And once you're there, you can schedule a consultation, and I would be happy to sit down and meet with you. So let's get to our guest. I want to bring on Renea Sageser, who is the author of the brand new book, Harvesting Success: How to Grow Your Company the Farm to Business Way. Now, Renea, welcome, and what an exciting day for your book launch.
Yes, it is. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're absolutely welcome. Before we go too far, I think it would be great for people to understand a bit about your background, because I think your background has a significant impact on the message that you are sharing and whether people should hear, whether they're going to listen. So tell us a bit about who you are.
Yep. So I'm not necessarily a farmer by trade, which this book is like Harvesting Success and the Farm to Business Model. But what I am, I'm from a farm, and growing up on a farm, I learned a lot of valuable lessons. I like to say, think back in the Bible, if you want to look back even that far, one of the oldest professions we have is farming, right? And also like a few others, like, the prostitution and building buildings. But there's really not that many professions that date back to thousands and thousands of years. And farming is one of those. And so I really think there is so much to learn in the business world from looking back to what has been successful thousands of years. And so that's where the thought process started. And as a child growing up, I never really appreciated growing up on a farm, all those lessons that you learn, until I became a business owner myself in a different type of field, and used those same techniques in my personal business. And so that's sort of what led me on this journey of going, you know what, there is something we can share here, and hopefully with the world, about some different strategies that they can use in their everyday business.
Well, thank you. And I think also you're being modest in regards to a number of your accomplishments and stuff. But I understand that you and your husband have a number of businesses. You are not, and this isn't to put down this person, but you're not the random person who just worked on a farm a little bit. You've got a couple things you want to share based upon that. You've got some chops and some accomplishments behind you. And I know it's not comfortable to brag, but would you tell us a little bit more about some of the things you've accomplished in business?
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, I do not like to brag on myself, but I have been blessed to, have a successful business now for a little over 15 years. And I've been the CEO for over 15 years of a pediatric therapy company, helping children learn how to walk and talk and do all those amazing things and getting to change all the lives. I've also been named our company's been named Best Places to Work in our state for the past 6 years. So being able to lead our company, to have that acknowledgement, is very something I don't take lightly, and has helped us to be very successful. And then also, I have been named the Louisville Businesswoman of the Year, which again is a huge honor. Out of thousands of women who are in the Louisville area, I had the honor of being named the NAVO Businesswoman of the Year. And so that was great. I've definitely have had some honors in our association as well. But I personally always feel very uncomfortable when I talk about myself in those areas. So thank you for acknowledging that. And hopefully just based on some of that, then when people read that, they see the sincerity of writing this and how anybody can accomplish these.
Oh, great. I'm glad. Thanks for letting me put you on the spot. because I knew there were some things that people needed to learn there. So, well, let's talk about your book and your message here. And by the way, if anyone in chat, I see chat comments coming through. Also, feel free to put in questions, and I'll be happy to share those with Renee. And if you happen to be watching this ultimately on a replay, also leave your questions. And I'm happy to try to relay those to Renee as well. So, Renee, give us kind of a general overview of the farm to business practice, the farm to business way.
Yeah. So the idea, actually, I was sitting in one of our CEO meetings, and somebody was like, Renee, how have you been successful? And I thought back, and I was like, you know what? It's all these things that go into this model from what I call the farm to business. And like the first one, which is like the little chapter of the wheel, is your hunger for success and your drive. And so that's where it all starts. You have to have a drive for wanting something more. And usually when people start a business or they're in a career, they have to have a drive. They have to have that hunger. And in farming, it sort of starts with a farmer, we want to feed others. And so that's where it starts. And then having that faith of a mustard seed of saying, okay, I have faith that this is going to go far. And then it goes around and we talk about our values, the culture, the grit and the grace, the purpose of why we do what we do. I help make your underwear, the development, cultivation, how we cultivate our employees, and the season. So in farming, we talk about seasons a lot, like all the different ones, from the spring of where you plant your seed to the harvest. And in business, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to plant those seeds and then harvest them, all the way to the end of how you leave your legacy and what you leave behind. And we'll talk a little about that, of how farmers want to leave the earth, how they found it. And as business owners, we want to leave our legacy to continue to grow and build upon that for others to reap the benefits.
Excellent. It's funny because, for people who haven't grown up on a farm, they may think that farming is a really simple thing. And yet it's so technical, right? There's so many things that you need to learn. And I think that what I love about this is you're not just bringing, obviously the metaphor of harvesting, planting, reaping and sowing, right? And talk about a biblical reference there. It certainly applies, but it goes deeper. It goes deeper than that. It's not just, turning prospects into clients or something along those lines. So let's get into that one. You said, I make your underwear. Let's get into that, because I just think that's one of the best chapter titles I have ever seen.
Thank you. So it really sort of started with my dad. He is a pretty serious man most of the time if you meet him, but he's also just very funny, more of that dry humor. And so I will never forget, we were actually at church, and I was introducing him when we moved to this area to our new pastor. And he said, hey, my name is so-and-so. And he's like, what do you do? And he said, hey, I make your underwear. And it was really funny. It took me off guard because, when you hear underwear, we just sort of laugh in general. But he always loved telling everybody that. And he was sincere about it. He was so excited that he had a purpose. And not only, he'll say, I also feed America, which he definitely does that too. But he loves to know that what he's doing every day is helping to better someone else. He's clothing you. And we all have a purpose. Like, my purpose is to help children learn how to talk. And in my story, I talk about having a speech disorder myself and how I grew out of that. But, and I still get nervous to this day talking. So if you guys catch anything too, that's probably why. But in the story, it talks about how we all have a purpose, and you have a purpose, and your purpose, like you said earlier, is to help people get their stories out. And so this chapter is so important because we have to think, what is our purpose? How can we make that difference? And when you find out what your purpose is, there is no holding you back. You can go all the way.
So let me share with everyone that the book today is available on Amazon, on paperback, and also in Kindle. The Kindle's at a special launch price, $1.99, and pick that up. And just know, if you don't normally read Kindle, that you can read Kindle on every smartphone, every tablet. There are apps on your smartphones and tablets already, and even on computers, PC or Mac. And so pick that up. And I would recommend also pick up a copy, buy two copies. If you're going to get a paperback, get two so that you can pass it on to somebody else. Anyone who is in the business world or considering making a leap into the business world would really benefit from this book. All right, so I'm seeing some questions come in. So if you don't mind, I'm going to pass on some questions here. And actually some really great comments. I'm going to get to that first because that's fun. Renee is the hardest working person I know. This book is such a blessing. Be sure to tell them about chocolate gravy. Okay, now I'm actually afraid to ask about chocolate gravy, but it's been brought up. So do you want to talk about chocolate gravy?
That is actually one of my favorite chapters, and that's the rewards that, earlier I don't like to brag on myself like you had said earlier, but chocolate gravy in business, we take for granted. And so I give this analogy of where when I was a child, my mom would make chocolate gravy. And if you're not from the South and you don't know what this is, you need to look it up. But it's this amazing chocolate gravy smothered on biscuit. So if you like chocolate, you should definitely try it. And we would only get that on maybe a special holiday or somebody's birthday or sometimes on a Sunday. Typically, Dad was always home when Mom would make chocolate gravy. And I would just wake up and that aroma of that chocolate gravy, I knew at that moment that it was a special day. Like it was going to be a good day. It was a special day. And so I love to say this is our chocolate gravy moment. And like right now, as I'm speaking to you, this is a chocolate gravy moment for me. It's one of those things that you want to stop and you want to smell it and you want to take it all in. And sometimes in business, we just get in such a hurry. We're so busy. Maybe it's your first employee you hire or being named best places to work or being named like my brother, he was named National Farmer of the Year. It's, you're just in a hurry. And sometimes you're like, oh, I don't even have time to attend the event. But chocolate gravy reminds us that we need to slow down because we have to savor these sweet moments in business. They don't come every day, but when they come, we as business owners and leaders need to stop and we need to appreciate where we're at. And that will help us to continue to be better business leaders. So that's my chocolate gravy. And I'm actually in a chocolate gravy moment. So
yes. In fact, I hope that tonight that you set aside some time to celebrate. I know today is a busy day for sure with your launch. The chocolate gravy, I think I get that, right? We need to stop and celebrate those moments. And it probably helps us remember those moments better too. Remember those successes because the next challenges are coming, right? They're coming. So we might as well let's lock in those successes and enjoy those. So I guess I'm going to have to try chocolate gravy sometime.
Yes, definitely.
I had never heard of that. It's not a California thing that I'm aware of.
Probably not a California thing, but definitely a Southern thing. It's amazing.
Love it. All right. And now Malia asked this question. She says, can you share some of your favorite farm to business model principles?
Yeah, that's really good. So one of those principles, when you're looking at that is the love your neighbor. And to me, that has been very successful in our business too. And I'll talk about that. That's just our service model. So the way in our businesses, we want all of our employees to also be really good community citizens and give back. So you can, volunteer for events, you can get active in the community, but when you're active and you're giving back in that service, that is a really good model. Also, as a business leader, this was something I learned early. A lot of people want to knock you down and a lot of competitors are scared of you or really nervous. And if you can zone in to that love your neighbor and look at everybody as a neighbor and a friend, I've met actually some really good friends now that are what I would say a competitor, and we've helped each other and we've learned and we've grown from that. And so I encourage people to not necessarily feel threatened from their competitors, but try to build those relationships and dive into those.
I think that's super valuable, Renee. I run a mastermind group of other publishers, and I think when people come in, they're blown away about how freely we share information among
Mhm.
each other.
Yeah.
And you just figure the market is bigger than we are.
Yeah.
And I've got to think in the farming world, the same deal. The market is bigger than,
Yeah.
than any two farmers.
Oh yeah.
And when of course it's that whole thing, we'll get much further together.
That's right. Much further. Yeah. And, right now in our field, we are pediatric therapy. So we help kids with special needs. And we have over 5,000 children waiting for services within all of our clinics, which is crazy. And I've really partnered with some other different um, competitors in our area to try to negotiate rates and try to get increases so that we can continue to see more patients, and how can we improve on our waiting list. So at the end of the day, how many more kids' lives can we change?
There, I love this, and by the way, there's a couple quotes from your book that I thought were really poignant that I thought I would share. One is this: I just love this first page. God has so much to teach us about leadership if we just look at all the clues He gives us. You know, like
Okay.
I thought that was wonderful. How does that play into how you currently run your business? Some people are
Mhm.
afraid to bring faith into their businesses.
Yeah.
Some people think these things should be separate. How do you integrate? Sorry, did we cut out there? Or do you hear me okay, Renee?
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I'm there. If you're leaving me or not. Are you there?
No, that's okay.
Sorry.
But yeah, so I was just asking, yeah, if you want to respond to that question about how
Yeah.
does faith
Yes,
integrate
thank
in
you.
your business?
Yes. So, faith is a reason that we're here in business in general. So, as a child, like I said, I had a speech disorder. And then a little further in my senior year, my mom was actually in a car accident. And I was really frustrated at God of like, this was happening in my life, but then saw the bigger picture and felt like He was calling me. So, I just had to follow that faith that I'm making the right decision. And, I think I talk about it in my book. I remember sitting there before I opened our first office and just praying, like, I have to believe, God, that this is what you want us to do. And I've always told our employees that we are faith, family, and then everything else. And that's what we try to live by. And I think that's important. I also tell people that we are a faith-based company. Now, we don't discriminate. We have all different religions and non-religions and types that work at our office, and we do not discriminate about who we treat. But I do enjoy and feel led to tell people that that's who we are. And honestly, you are going to get some that backlash and say you shouldn't say that. But I'm always like, well, you don't have to be here. It's a public it's a I'm so blessed that we live here in the United States, where it is a free country, that we get to say that, and we get to run our businesses like that. So I'm thankful to be here to be able to do that.
Yeah, and grateful that we can be in a place where we can.
Yes.
Right. I think that's absolutely critical.
Yeah.
Well, let me remind everybody that Harvesting Success is available right now on Amazon, where you can pick it up. The Kindle version is $1.99 on a special launch day special. And if you're watching this on a replay and it's not that anymore, I'm sorry. Go ahead and pick it up anyway. It's worth every bit of that and a whole lot more. So grab your copy of Harvesting Success on paperback or Kindle. So we have a little bit more time available. Renee, who did you write this book for? Like, who did you have in mind when you sat down to write this?
Well, so that is somewhat of a tricky question that, I was talking to some CEOs when the idea came up about this farm to business model, and how I felt like you talk to a lot of people and they'll say, I will hire a farmer any day, all day long. I also have someone who works for a company who says, I'll hire anybody who's been on a sports team, because you learn that team approach. And I always say I'll hire that farmer, because I know that they're going to put in the grit, the grace, the work ethic, the drive. All of those things are going to be put in, and they're going to go a far way. So I was like, what if we can teach others, even if they weren't, raised on a farm, the same concept. So that was the first piece of that. And then the second was, funny story, I'm the only one that left the farm. So my brother and my sister my mom, my dad, my grandmother, my aunts and uncles and cousins and nieces and nephews, they all still live on the farm. And I wanted to also give this to them as a tribute to say, you know what, farming wasn't in my future personally. That wasn't where I was supposed to be the rest of my life. God had a different purpose for me, but everything that you taught me has been successful. And so it was really also a tribute to my grandmother and my father and my mother of every lesson that they've taught me, and to show them that, I have been successful from all of that.
Well, and I love Kathy Fyock's comments here that farming is hard work and can teach amazing leadership and business principles.
Yeah.
I am guessing, however, that when you were in the midst of that, you didn't know that you were learning leadership and business principles, and you probably weren't enjoying.
No, didn't enjoy any of it, really. That's what's funny about it. I was the one that was considered lazy in the family. It's really sort of a funny story. And so, again, I was writing this to show them, hey, I wasn't lazy. I just didn't enjoy the manual labor. And so that's different, manual labor. And I wanted to use my brain, not my hands all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. I continue to get messages from people who have ordered your book and are excited to share it. I like this comment here from Kaylee. My grandparents own a cattle farm in Kentucky, and I love how you're tying in farming and how it relates to other areas of life. Thank you, Kaylee. All right. So what, as you wrote this book, I have to say, sometimes authors will tell me that there are portions of the book that kind of write themselves. Mm-hmm. Did you have any portions of the book that kind of wrote themselves? And it's not true for everybody. For some people, it's a tough slog the whole way, but some just flow.
Well, the purpose one was one that definitely was an area that wrote itself, like, finding your purpose in life. And then I would say play in the dirt and culture was also a very easy one for me, because I was the one on the farm that always wanted to play in the dirt. I was the one getting in trouble for talking in class, and I was the one, trying to pull all the teams together and have the parties, right? I wanted everybody to always come over. And so I talk about that in the book, about building the culture. And so to me, that was a really easy chapter to write. That's also why I think our company's been so successful, is because I do pour into our culture and try to make everybody feel like a family. And that's not just something to get a label of best places to work. It's because that's what's in our heart and what we want our employees to feel. And so culture to me was probably the easiest chapter to write.
Now, and by the way, that accomplishment that you got is no small thing. And that's really is incredible. And that's a testament, right? It's a testament to you and your leadership and to the team that you put together.
Thank you.
Now, speaking of teams that you put together, you have a chapter that you call Chop the Weeds. And talk about assembling the right team. This is really pertinent. So can you tell us about Chop the Weeds, how this principle from farming is so critical in the business world?
Yes. There's a funny story in there about, as a kid, my granddad wanted me to go out and chop the cotton weeds, and cotton weeds look very similar to cotton plants. And by the time he came back, I had chopped down a whole row of cotton, and it was, if you could see his face, I still see it in my head of how frustrated he was with me, and just the fury that he had. And I think about that in business of, like, you think you're doing a really good job, but if you are chopping the wrong weed, that's not good either. Chopping the plant and not the actual weed, that's not a good thing. And knowing what the difference is between the plant and the weed, and sometimes it's very deceiving. So in business, as most business owners, we've all had that story of somewhere where we've really been burned. And honestly, this chapter was a little therapeutic for me. I could probably write a whole book about it, but I did have an employee that I actually call Poison Ivy in this chapter. And, we didn't chop that weed soon enough. Like, it was very deceiving, and it could have really affected our business. It did affect our business, but it could have been worse. I'm very thankful that it wasn't as bad at the end of the day. We now look back and we don't laugh about it, but we know, like, how blessed we are that we were able to get over that. So chop the weeds is very important. You've got to know if the weed, if you have a bad employee and you don't get rid of them soon enough, they can actually smother all your other employees and kill the good plants. And that's what's so important about this chapter, is knowing which ones are right to keep and not waiting too long before you get rid of them.
Well, I know
That's hard to do.
it is super hard. I can say as employers, it is hard to chop the weeds
Yep.
quickly enough.
Yep. And I'm so nice that I feel bad sometimes chopping that weed. So it is one of the hardest. That was, if you want to ask about what was the hardest chapter to write, that was probably one of them.
I totally get it. And I've heard the saying, hire slow, fire fast. And I think of Jim Collins, Good to Great, talking about how so much of what we do is a who problem, not a what problem.
That's right.
Who first, and having the right team. So culling is an important part. I suppose that's another way to describe that analogy, right? Culling the herd.
That's right.
That's a little bit more of a gruesome analogy. I think let's stick with chopping the weeds.
Yes, let's stick with that. But it is so hard, and that's honestly when I was writing this. Even today, as a business owner, you still have to think about those things. Like, is your team where they need to be? Do you have everybody in the right seats? How can you continue to make those improvements? And it's hard. And sometimes as your business grows, not everybody grows with your business at the same level either. And that can be a challenging too. So it's easier to say than to always follow through with, I will say, as a business leader.
Yeah, amen to that. Honestly, Renee. Well, Renee, if people want to reach out to you directly, what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Yep. So definitely the website, it's harvestingsuccess.com or farmtobusinessmodel.com. And then just my email, it's Renea, RENEA .Sageser@gmail. So I don't have a fancy email. It's just your normal Gmail there. You can get a hold of me.
It's okay. I love it. So harvestingsuccess.com, farmtobusinessmodel.com.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. And your Gmail address.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for taking the time. Congratulations again on the launch of your book. This is no small accomplishment. You are today breathing rare air. I've heard some crazy statistics that say that the majority of people in the U.S. want to write a book someday. But we know that only a fraction of a percent ever actually see it happen. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh, by the way, we have Kathy Fyock.
Yes.
Absolute wonderful book coach, Kathy Fyock.
Yes.
Says, great job and great book.
And I do need to do a shout out because she was definitely my coach. And I would not have been able to write this book without Kathy. So thank you, Kathy. Because if you know my story and all of those things, I needed somebody to keep me accountable, and she will keep you accountable.
Fantastic. And we've worked with a lot of authors together, and can't speak too highly. I mean, she just does a great job. So people can find her at kathyfyock.com, by the way. We might as well just put that in there, kathyfyock.com. Also, some other well-wishers coming in. Leanne Roden. We had other comments earlier, and it's just great to see that.
Yes.
Well,
I wouldn't have been able to do this book either. Last shout out to everybody on my editor team, because again, I have a lot of ideas, but sometimes it's hard for me to always get them on paper. And so again, without my team, all of their names are in the back of the book. I cannot thank them enough from the bottom of my heart of everything they've helped me with.
It is a team effort, right? Yes. It is a team effort. You don't want to do this alone.
I couldn't have done it by myself. That is for sure. That's for sure.
Well, wonderful. Renee, thanks again. Thanks for being here. And I'll wrap us up. But congratulations again.
Thank you.
All right. So if you're interested in getting your book out to the world, please contact us at ignitepress.us, ignitepress.us. Make sure to pick up your copy of Harvesting Success and pass it on. Get a copy for others. I think it's a fantastic book. So thank you very much for joining us. Take care and God bless.